Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Barrio's Kitchen. I'm your host, Diana Sabater, and I am here with my co host, Awilda Suero. Awilda, I am so excited for March. Do you know why?
Why?
Because it is Women's History Month.
Oh, great,
Or
great.
should I say, Women's Her Story Month?
Well, we can say both. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our show, The Barrio's Kitchen.
So, I love Women's History Month because it highlights all the amazing women and everything that they do, that they have done to change our society and bring it closer to having equal rights, right?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And we need to be proud because this is our month to celebrate our our dreams, our hopes.
Yes. So I was doing a little research and I was thinking about who were the most influential, or who are, or who has been the most influential female chefs in the industry. And I thought about like what inspired me to become interested in food. Like, what was the thing,
And, and
right?
and actually, we can start with that. How inspiring you, because you're a chef. How inspiring you, and how to become a chef, especially. This is there's an old saying about women do the cook, but the man is the chef. So, through the years, you have women in the cooking at home, but then when we go outside, you see most of men doing chef. So tell me how you decided I'm gonna become a chef.
I think, and then for a lot of people, because, anytime I've ever talked to anybody in the food industry, I've always asked them, like, oh, what inspired you to cook? And their backstory is always my grandmother. So for me, it was the same thing. Like, but the thing that really caught my attention was when I was a kid, on Saturday mornings, me and my mom would watch Julia Child, the French chef. And Julia was someone who she really changed, cooking for the home cook. Like, she made it possible for people to cook meals in the kitchen, like, without making it seem like it's something that's so complex, or you have to have formal training. So when she came out with her show, that I remember that we would watch her show and my mother would like write down the ingredients, and then after the show we would go to the market, get the stuff, and then we would cook the dish. And so we would do that every Saturday, and I was always looking forward to cooking. And then that was the thing that, for me, that was like a creative outlet. And then, you know, it was like a challenge trying to convince my grandmother to let me in the kitchen, because you know how us Latina women are. We could be very territorial of the kitchen.
This is our kitchen,
Right.
my kitchen. Nobody's allowed to pass that door,
Right.
pass that way. So that's our kitchen.
Yeah, so with my grandmother, she would always be like, "No, go in the living room, go watch TV, get out the kitchen," And but then I think like when I was around, because I started watching Julia Child when I was like about 10, so I started cooking in the kitchen with my mom like when I was 10. But then like I think I was about 14 when I was able to convince my grandmother to let me in the kitchen and learn like what she was cooking. And she mostly taught me like how to make Puerto Rican food and all the ingredients that go into making sofrito. So, and then I remember like she always she was specific about the ingredients that you needed to put in the sofrito. And
Yes.
I didn't get it until I was like in my 20s. when I was trying to master her recipe and I couldn't figure out for the life of me, like, oh my God, what did she say to put in here? She was very specific, and then I remembered. But she was very influential. My mother loved to cook. My mother, she loved to cook everything. Like we didn't grow up just eating Puerto Rican food. We were eating everything, like other foods, like Italian food, Greek
Yes,
food,
yes,
Asian
yes.
food. You know, so we grew up with a very diverse palate, and I learned a lot about cultures through food, and that's kind of what I did with my kids. You know, as they were growing up, like we would always go to different restaurants. If we went to an Asian restaurant, we ate with chopsticks. If we went to a Moroccan restaurant, we knew we were eating with our hands. So we practiced whatever customs they had, and I think that's just a great way of learning how to, learning food, but also learning about different cultures. And with Julia, I think, she went to culinary school. Most of the dishes I believe that she cooked were French based. So I grew up eating beef bourguignon. Like that was the one dish my mother loved to make in the crock pot. So, and then on Sundays, it would be quiche Lorraine, which is like an egg pie with bacon and spinach and Swiss cheese. But then once my mom learned how to make the quiche, like a perfect quiche, then she would
Yes.
switch up the ingredients. And her favorite was like adding seafood to it. So we kind of grew up like that, learning different types of food. And so Julia was very influential for me.
And I think also Julia probably she was one of the first chef that she started her cooking show,
Yes.
and this is something opened the door for all the women chefs that came after her.
Yeah.
And this is something great because before her, I don't think there was another a female, especially on TV.
Right. And then with having to go to culinary school, to learn gourmet cooking, she kind of taught the home cook how to make that, she made it accessible to home cooks to be able to cook French cuisine or any cuisine for that matter. But she was very influential in that. She was a cooking legend.
And I would like to mention also there's a great famous women chef that was the first American, also the first Asian woman chef to be selected as the White House executive chef. Kristeta, I hope I'm going to pronounce her name correctly, Kristeta Comfort. She was the first female chef in the White House. And she brought her style. She's a creative person, and I love her quote. And I want to quote her. There's something that she says that life, which reinforce is her beliefs about that anything's possible if you have a life purpose. And I think we need to, with cooking, everything's possible.
Yeah.
You can create a wonderful dish if you have passion. You can have from scratch. And recipe, for example, we have do we have a vegetable of the day? I think, let's put example, celery. We have to be creative. We can make so many dishes with celery. And there's something with her that I really love her, that she was creative and brought creativity to the White House. Now we can say we have a woman in the house because this is the White House.
Right.
Okay.
In the house,
Yes.
quote unquote.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right. Right.
Um,
And who else is Alice Waters is another one that is I have one of her cookbooks, and she's very passionate about locally sourced ingredients, organic ingredients, which is something that's, growing right now in a lot of, especially in a lot of urban areas, pushing like the community to grow their own produce, which is very important. So Alice Waters is affectionately known as the inventor of California cuisine. And like many other female chefs, she had a love for French cooking techniques, but also a passion for fresh local produce and natural ingredients. She opened her restaurant called Ches Pen Penis. I hope I'm saying it right. It looks like a French name. She opened that in Berkeley in 1971 and made a unique statement by offering a set of 5-course fixed price menu. The meal was made only from the freshest seasonal and local products that she sourced from a community of farmers and ranchers who provided her with naturally grown, mostly organic food. Um, Mostly organic. I would say it's challenging to get 100% organic
And I
because we
have
can't
a
control what's in
yeah,
the air.
and when
But
talking about organic, a lot of time when I go to the supermarket, or we have something labeled natural versus something labeled organic, and I think we need to have a distinction between natural versus organic.
yeah, that's important to know
Yeah.
because some produce are hybrids, and those are ones that are grown in a science lab. Like sometimes they're I don't know exactly what they do with the seeds, but it's almost like they kind of combine the seeds to come up with a totally different, like, how when you see the purple carrots or the purple peppers.
Or maybe the pink orange.
Right. So it's like those are hybrids. They're not really natural ingredients. So that's important to know the difference. But Alice was an inspirational female chef who stayed true to her values of sustainability by incorporating organic and healthy foods into a structured restaurant environment. So I would say that she pioneered the whole farm to table
Yeah,
concept.
and I know a lot of restaurants, a lot of chefs right now, they're using locally produce.
Yeah.
That's a new trend. I think it's so important to be involved as part of the community, because that's really important. I love that concept.
Yeah, she kind of led the way for a fresh approach to cooking. And she launched a trend for organic and locally produced ingredients that has now become a mainstream around the world. And there really is a difference between like fresh food, like something that just came off the farm versus something that's been sitting in the market for a couple days, or something that's been grown in a science lab. Like you can tell the difference when you're eating food, even how it feels.
and also the taste. That's really so distinctive. The taste.
Yeah.
The taste of the fruit. Yes, of the vegetable, or the fruit as well. Um, so we have so many women. I'm telling you.
And the other one, another female chef who's sort of changed, the food scene in some way. Everybody knows who she is. She's everybody's favorite, how do you say, like, girl next door, Rachel Ray.
Oh yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Rachel Ray, and what I love about Rachel is that, she's different from Julia and Alice Waters. Like, Rachel didn't go to culinary school. Rachel was like a manager at a supermarket. And she was really creative in how she would try to sell food to people in the
Yes.
markets, like in the gourmet markets. Like, how do I get people to try new food? Oh, sample them. So I was reading that she would, like, she would set up a station.
Yes.
And she would cook the food. And that's how she would get people to try something different, and also her way of pushing that product. she so like I said, she doesn't have formal culinary training, but she's more of like a lifestyle, a career woman on the go. And she's known for creating that 30-minute meal.
And
Like,
that's
you
so
could
great.
still eat good and
Yes.
cook in under a half hour and like have a great meal.
And that's so great because the time has changed. Women are more out in the out working in the field, so we need to adapt. We need to adapt to the changes, and that's so wonderful. 30 meals before 30 meal used to take an hour, but now 30-minute meal and be healthy.
Yeah.
That's the day. That's
Or
great.
not just healthy, but also, just really good, delicious meals.
Yes.
And so she kind of made people feel confident about cooking meals in under 30 minutes, whereas most people who have formal culinary training, like, if they're going to make a broth, like a vegetable broth, they spend 4 hours. This broth is cooking on the stove for 4 hours just to get a broth for your soup. But, Rachel showed us how to do things in a quick enough time because more women are working, more
Yes.
women are working and raising families. They have a lot of responsibilities, and most women are the ones who are the majority of their, how do I say, women are most likely in the kitchen cooking.
Yes.
Even if
Yes.
they're married, they're usually the ones who are in the kitchen cooking and doing this food shopping. So, but she had, her own approach to it. And I used to watch her shows all the time, like her 30-minute meal shows, and
And that's so great because it teach you. I watch her show too. It teach me I actually have to organize. Have to a lot of time when we go to the supermarket, I buy like a whole list, a lot of time. The way that I love her, that she have a meal in mind. So when you go to the supermarket, you organize yourself. I'm going to buy those ingredients. Then when you come home, you already have the ingredients laid out. So you're saving time.
yeah.
So you can spend time with your family while you cooking. And also, she grow the way that we see cooking these days is so different from 40 years ago. Now it's so changed, and I love her as well.
And
Um,
I think, like, if you enjoy cooking, you should grab one of her cookbooks and just,
yes. Hmm.
browse through her recipes or watch her show, because I often run into women, who are like foodies. They love to
Hmm.
eat, but cooking is like, for some reason, they think that they have to have some type of formal training. And I didn't have formal training. My training was like with my mom, with my grandmom. Like, I didn't go to culinary school. I'm self-taught. But she's Rachel shows you how to take ingredients, like, for example, if I make like a chicken tortilla soup, I'll grab chicken broth and I'll grab a jar of salsa
Yes.
and I'll just mix it together, and I'll grab a roasted. You know how they have the chickens roasted already at the supermarket?
There it's cooked
You just
already.
like,
It's cooked already.
right, it's cooked already. So
Yes.
just grab it, shred it up, throw it in the soup, and then buy some tortilla strips, and there you go. If you want to add some cheese, some sour cream, some avocado. I mean, but this soup is chicken broth, salsa, and shredded chicken, and it's like it cooks. I think it cooks in like 20 minutes,
Yeah,
not
and you know
even
what?
30 minutes. You don't even need 30 minutes, maybe
Yes.
20 minutes for the flavors to come together. But this is like stuff that I learned from watching Rachel, how to make meals super fast. But I think the magic is all in the spices, which is why
Yes.
I kind of evolved into more studying spices and their flavor profile to learn how to really enhance a dish. So it's really all in the spices, but you can enjoy a meal and cook it, and it might only take 15 minutes, not even 30 minutes,
So you're
something like
going
that.
down 50 minutes. Can we do a cook in 5 minutes? Maybe
Actually,
10.
listen,
Oh,
actually we can if we have food that's prepared. I've made, you know what? I've
yes.
made some vegan plant-based dishes in
Why
5
do you didn't
minutes.
bring here today? We can share with you guys, you know.
We need a kitchen in here, but
Yeah.
it can be done. Like you
Yes.
don't have to. It doesn't need to take
Mm-hmm.
4 hours for you to cook a meal. I mean, okay,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I might want to braise a piece of meat that is going to take 4 hours. All right, so I'll do that on a Sunday when I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling lazy and I know I'm
Yes.
going to be home all day. But like most of the time during the week, I'm so busy, but I want to eat healthy because I'm not that fast food person. And I don't go out to eat a lot. I know a lot of people always ask me, "Oh, what's your favorite restaurant?" And I'm like, my kitchen, okay? Because I control the ingredients that are going in
Yes.
my food. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really, somebody who goes out to eat all the time. I rather
Mm-hmm.
s- be home and cook something, and this way I'm controlling what goes in my food. Um, so, but I learned a lot of tips watching Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
because she was a woman very busy on the go. And look at her
Yes.
now. She has
Mm-hmm.
a complete empire. She's a food fashionista.
Mm-hmm.
She has her own potware. She
Yes.
even makes pet food, which is really healthy. Does I don't think she has byproducts in any of her pet food, which is really important.
Yes.
Because byproducts, you don't know what they are. I mean, they could be
Mm-hmm.
like bird carcass or tires, and some of these companies, they'll put all that toxic stuff in your pet food. So um, she makes a really good brand. um, she has a lot of, her magazines. You can grab her magazine. She has like
Mm-hmm.
really cool tips on there too.
Mm-hmm.
But she really changed the way people cook and eat when
Mm-hmm.
she came on the scene. And, I just especially love the fact that she didn't have formal training. So, that just goes to show like you don't have to have formal training. You don't have to feel bad about,
Mm-hmm.
that you're self taught. Just, you know, make whatever you want. It's your creation. For me, food is art. I never when I make something, it's always my interpretation of the dish. It's sort of like a painter who looks at a flower and then paints it. It's what you're seeing is his interpretation. So for me, um, it's my interpretation that's going on the plate, and you can appreciate it if you want. But that's just how I see it. I never like compare myself to other chefs or how they make something. All right, if that's your way of making it, great. But for me, I just feel like when you're cooking, it's sort of an art form.
Because you're an
And
artist and you're creating,
right.
and that's, I think, cooking is creation.
Yeah.
And you can create anything that you like. Okay, and also talking about Rachel, there's another famous chef. It's called Rachel Coe. I think I pronounced it right. Um, she's a London-born cook and food writer. She's a young, creative female chef who used her creativity and social media expertise to create and fashion with cooking. She opened a restaurant, and it's called Little Paris Kitchen, and she used Malay, Chinese, Austrian, and British cooking mixed together.
She's very mixed. She has a
Yes,
very diverse
yes.
background: Malaysian, Chinese, Austrian, and British.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the thing. Like when I cook, or when for me, like I like to see a chef that when you're cooking, you're telling me a story. You're
Mm-hmm.
letting me introducing like who you are, your whatever your background is, you're sharing it on a plate. It's
Mm-hmm.
like telling a story, and I think that's important. um, a couple years ago, I took a DNA test.
Oh, yes, you did?
I
Oh,
did, and I was curious to see about my background.
yes.
And it was interesting that I found out my roots are in North Africa. So, what's interesting is how the spice trail started in North Africa, right?
Yes.
And so it kind of made sense why I'm like obsessed with spices and I'm always researching. Um, So I thought it was interesting. I started learning more and more about North African food, and it made sense why I was so drawn to that culture and collecting Moroccan lamps and
Mm.
just the architecture. So I think it's important, like knowing your roots, and when you're a chef, like don't be afraid to express that. This is, you're telling a story. You're showing people, a part of you, and you're sharing that story with people. And I think that's important. So I like when chefs do that, because sometimes people are sharing a story that is not part of their heritage, and you're robbing yourself of that creativity. So, but she was one that she definitely shared
Oh yes, oh
her
yes.
many cultures.
And so for example, this is a great, like, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Puerto Rican Dominican,
Oh.
and a lot of times when I'm cooking, I embrace both sides of cooking into my food. Okay, and I'm gonna agree with you. It's so important to bring your heritage and to know cooking, because especially cooking this day, everybody have their cooking, and we're using the pretty much the same ingredient but in different ways, and that's so wonderful. For example, maybe in Puerto Rico we use some, let's see, taro. We call in Asia they use taro. In Puerto Rico in Spanish called malanga,
Mm-hmm.
and for us in the Caribbean we use malanga in different ways. So, however, in Asia, taro is cooked differently. We can in desserts that I never try. So that's why we have the same ingredient, but the beauty of cooking is how to cook and explore. If you always cook in a the same way, try something new. Don't be scared.
Yeah, because
The
then.
worst can happen is burning your cook.
Yeah, right.
But that's about it. But try it. Just keep practice and try.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had that experience too. But yeah, I think like because if you're always cooking the same thing all the time, it gets boring, and then you don't want to cook. Then you're like, all right, where can I order food? And that's when you get in trouble. So, but it can be fun, if you just have like, fully stocked kitchen with your spices. Um, it doesn't have to be complicated like they like to make it seem sometimes. I think it's a bit of an art form. Do you do you feel that women spend more time in the kitchen than men do?
Well, I do believe so. I do, because especially woman, um, almost is an hour. I would like to say an hour. Okay, usually between 30 minutes to an hour. It's depend if depend of your schedule, but most of the cooking is by woman. A lot of time, if you're gonna have a long day, a lot of time it's a good to prepare meals ahead of time if you can.
Oh yeah, that's
That's so
yes.
important. um, but I think we're gonna continue having the discussion, because this is a month for Women's Month, and we're growing. And I think in cooking we have come a long way. I would like to say, um, now we have more female chef on TV out there, and we need to keep proud. And I would like for us to continue to grow. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think that that's important. Women are changing the whole scenery in the food industry. Um, Getting awards, where men are usually the ones that are taking charge of that. So, yeah, so we are out of time. And thank you for listening. We're going to continue celebrating Women's Her Story Month.
Oh
right?
yes, we're gonna continue. And
And
you know what? Sorry, not only 1 month. We should be celebrating every single month.
yeah, right. And in our next episode, spring is coming up. Spring is coming up on March 19th, right?
Yes,
So
20.
you
Yeah,
know what
19.
that
Yes,
means? Gardening
yes.
time. So we're gonna be talking about that in our next episode. And where are the local community
Garden.
plots that you can garden at around Philadelphia?
Okay, so
So
thank you very much.
thank you guys.
Please support Usala Media and have a great day. And remember, cook with passion.
With passion.
Bye.